suddenly I'm like not feeling right. I'm like, whoa. And then I felt like I was losing touch of reality. Like I felt I was dying. This is not like a stoned feeling, like I'm about to die. And then I remember the prayer, if I ever do drugs again, you can kill me. And then I remember looking to my left, looking to my right, and I'm losing touch of reality. And I look, and one of his friends' face, he looks at me, and then it turned into like a demon, and his face stretched out and stretched back in. I was like, no, I didn't. Oh my goodness, I didn't just see that. And I looked to my left, and it happened again. And then I'm starting to pass out. I said, no, y'all can't have me. Y'all can't have. I remember saying, you can't have me. I got louder and louder, and I'm starting to look at them. I started chasing everyone, Mondo included, and they all started running to their little nice cars, freaked out. And I remember bashing windows. I remember bashing the cars like Hulk smash.
Yeah.
Damaging these like beautiful vehicles, and they were scared. And I remember like finally flopping down to the ground, boom, and I just started like flopping like a fish. They said you start flopping like you're convulsing, and at that time I remember my life flashing before my eyes, like a film rolling, and it showed all the stuff I've done, and I'm like, this is it, I'm dead. Welcome back to episode 2. I'm your host, Mark Cabrera, and this is my lovely, beautiful co-host, Melissa Rose Cabrera. Again, she's so native. I have to do this. She's so native that when she gets to the reservation, she starts driving in reverse. And there's some truth to that, right? Like Ghost Talk, I think you drove backwards.
Yeah, that did happen before.
What happened?
So we had a barbecue at Ghost Talk Park in Rosebud,
right.
And we got back in the truck and it wouldn't drive forward. So this was like a single cab truck, and so like all of us kids would drive in the back, right? But then so we would always see town going by us kind of like this, because we're looking back. So it was kind of weird for us because on the way back we were seeing town go by us like we were looking forward. And
is that like a native thing? The first time I saw it and I understood it was because you told me that story, but we were watching that movie Smoke Signals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then they're driving in reverse, right?
Right.
And I was like, what's that about? You guys, it was you, your cousin, I think it was Holly and Lena at the house, and they're just cracking up. And I'm like, well, I think that's a inside joke maybe.
Yeah.
Is that very common?
I guess so. I mean, if people's transmissions, go out and you still have to get home, I guess you can just drive in reverse back home.
Right. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I gotta say, that's a dope fit. I've been looking at it, like, man, that is bright. You even got the blanket almost to match.
Yeah. Up in H-Town, I guess.
You might see a fly, because I don't know how that fly got in here, but it's bothering us. So you'll see us wandering. Anyway, you gotta represent like this. I got this on. You got this for me on sale.
Yeah, exactly. You should represent the H if I'm going to represent the H. I mean, I know you're a 49ers fan. I know that, but I'm just...
I think everyone knows I'm a Niners fan. I think Michael knows I'm a Niners fan. He is, though, a Texans fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our son Michael's a big Texans fan. He actually informed us that Diggs is now with a different team. So, but it's
he's like, how can you even like represent? He don't even play for the Texans anymore. I'm like, look, I got it on sale. I'm not fixing to buy a $150 jersey just to be in.
Well, we have to represent our city. We have to represent our.
And we're not really from the H. I mean, we're like a couple suburbs down.
Yeah, it's okay. But the major city is Houston.
It is Houston.
Yeah.
Anyway, try the tea, babe. Again, this is not Long Island.
Oh.
This is really good. This is not raspberry like last time, though.
Okay.
And I think Michael made this tea. And man, he makes it like McDonald's tea. Really sweet.
Really? I thought it was watered down, but it's all good. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I think last episode, what we talked about briefly our childhood testimony, from the bomb threat, with you chewing at the age of 8 or 9, trying to get buy those little Tootsie Footsies for like 2 cents, so then you would get change back, because back in the day they had food stamps, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't give food stamp coins back, but they gave real change back, and you would collect it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this episode 2, we're going to continue with our journey. So after the bomb threat, I moved to Canada. Nobody wanted to take the responsibility for my parents. So
yeah. So you got kicked out of England, and
Right.
then all of your relatives in the States were like, "Oh, no, Mark can't come over here."
yeah,
So then your aunt from Canada said you
Yeah.
could go there.
that
yeah.
was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love my Tita Ching. Her heart's in the right place for sure, and she does know the Lord. So she was willing to take me at 15.
Mm-hmm.
And she's looking at me like, oh, he's troubled. It's like, I'm not really troubled. I didn't think I was troubled. I just wanted to get out of class. And I do make a lot of mistakes at 15.
Yeah.
But I guess to everybody else, he's a troubled teen. And one of the first things she asked me was like, do you smoke marijuana? I almost thought it was a trick question. And I was like, no. She was, okay, because if you do, don't buy it from anyone. Get it from me. She's a nurse, and I guess like she's able to get it like medically maybe. But
So maybe thinking that was the safer route. If
yeah,
that's
get
what
like
you were doing.
make sure
Okay.
it's good. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm good. Right? So yeah, I did stay in Canada on an island. It was called Nanaimo, Vancouver Island.
Wow. Well, that might have been a good experience, right?
It was. I think even there, I kind of messed up. They really tried to show me discipline. I think when I got there, like, oh, well, you need to get a job, and I'm 15. I'm like, okay, what kind of job can I get? And being an American citizen in Canada, what can I do? They go, you could deliver papers. So I was getting $50, I think, every week from delivering newspapers. And back then, you had to either have a car or, you guessed it, right? You got to use a bicycle.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't have a license.
Oh.
It was tough because I would go blocks and blocks to deliver like bundles of newspaper, and when I ran out, I had to come back to the house, refill, because it's so heavy, and I just have this one bag that they give you, and I'm delivering these papers.
Wow.
Yeah. So my uncle, one time, I couldn't find something, then he looked under the bed, and it had stacks and stacks of newspapers that I never delivered, but I still got paid to do it.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just not good.
Well, you still got paid.
I got paid.
Oh, I guess that's a good part. And
Yeah,
you didn't know that
so-
you're just like trashing the
Yeah.
newspapers.
I was 14, then 15 over there in Vancouver Island on Nanaimo in Canada. And then when I turned 15, I got my license, because in Canada, you can be 15 and have a license. That was so cool. Anyway, so during that season, that's when my parents got that transfer to Fairfield, California, to Travis Air Force Base.
Okay.
And then I decided to go out there. It was like maybe a few months, maybe June, July. It was still the summer. And then they drove me back all the way from Canada down to California. I started having influence again, really bad influence, doing what I wanted to do, and found myself in a Filipino gang in the Bay Area. And it wasn't like we were really bad what we did, but I think we're more like an organization, because all the kids that were in this gang, man, they all lived in Pinole Valley. If you know Pinole Valley, it's like really nice houses over there, at least in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And then I would run around in Vacaville and Fairfield being an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm from the Air Force Base with 2 good parents. What was I doing? I mean, it was influenced, like I said before, it could be influenced from the music I was listening to. Really mimicking what I idolized. Oh, you want to be a thug? Okay, well, try that lifestyle, right? I got arrested in Vacaville I was in the parking lot in the back seat of my friend's Chrysler. He had a LeBaron, and one of my boys hops out. He goes, he checks it out. Apparently, everyone knows him. Like, he's just bad news. So, Vacaville Police Department already recognized him. And minutes later, he gets hemmed up, right? Got nothing on him. No guns, no nothing, but they know him. But they're holding him. And they saw us parked in the back, and they lit us up. And so I started shoving the guns under the seat with my feet, just pushing with my feet. Well, they found it. They arrested us. I get in trouble. He is the black sheep. He's just doing all kind of bad. And it's like, why? Right?
Because you were listening to that black sheep. See what happened to you?
This or that.
Right.
Right? So,
exactly.
no, that's not what the song's about. But I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, so I get arrested. I took the blame for the weapons, and I'm under 18, so slap on the wrist, right? However, they tell me, oh, okay, the judge, if I ever see you in my courthouse again, yeah, you're going to CYA. If anybody know what CYA is in California, that's the California Youth Authority.
Tunnel system to the prison system.
That's it.
Yeah. Bad place to be for any youth. Yeah.
Right. I get kicked out of Travis because I got marijuana in my room. You know this story.
Oh, yeah. Is that when your mom called the cops?
So my mom calls the cops. They come knock on the door, and then they come in, and they pull out a sack. I was like, where'd they get? That's my room.
She a op caller.
A cop caller. Anyways, I'm like, what? And they had the dog sniffing around my room. I'm like, this is crazy. No. All in all, I get in trouble. I get arrested. Actually, my dad gets arrested with me, and my mom called the cops on us. Yeah, on the base. So then I get in trouble again. Me and my dad we get arrested together.
Oh.
And so we're walking out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's looking at us. We're just getting arrested.
Second time.
So, first time he didn't get arrested though. I got arrested, but
second time, both of y'all.
And so now I'm getting kicked out the base again, and now I don't know where to go. My grandma's like, "Oh, this is like Sacramento. You might not want to be here, especially they live really close to Del Paso Heights." So either way, I still went to Sacramento to go to school over there, and that didn't last very long. I met some really cool Samoans over there. That's kind of like the people I kind of was hanging out with. There's Asians there, a few Filipinos, but the Filipinos hung with the Samoans.
Oh, okay.
We're like from the Philippine Islands. They're from the islands, and so we're like the islanders,
Oh, so this is when you're walking around with your robe on and stuff?
Yeah. It's called the Ia. All my Hamo people, that's Hamo, Hamo. Like we're Pinoys, we're Hamo. So, yeah. They call each other Uso.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like bro. So, and these guys were scary.
Yeah.
Like, no one messed with them.
Right.
They would just walk around like, oh, those are the Samoans.
Some big guys with some really long hair, right?
They'll mess you up for sure. Wow. Anyway, so I hung out with them for 2 years. And so 15, 16, it was about maybe 17 when I left, because running around the streets of Sacramento wasn't good for me either. It was the summer of, I would say 96, 97. And one of my friends gets shot. Well, actually, two of them got shot, but one didn't make it. One got shot in the back, and my other friend just got shot in the thigh. But the one who got shot in the back, I guess it bounced around in his body and it exited his shoulder, so it hit like a diaphragm and all these internals. Well, I remember it was late at night. It was like 2, 3 o'clock, and I had a car and I was sleeping. And then my friend tells me, "Hey, get up. Man, Fonga, they just got shot." I was like, "What? Like, are you serious?" Funny thing is, I was supposed to be there that night because we're shooting off fireworks. That's what it was. And I remember it was around 4th of July. And I was going to stay with them that night. I said, I will just walk back to the house. Y'all take my car. I really think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were telling me, hey, we should just hang out tonight and we'll just walk back. And I was going to do it. That's what really freaked me out. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I could have been right there with them. I remember well, I can't be here. And I remember Luke's dad comes up to me and he says, "Mark, this is getting dangerous." Like, you're in a bad spot. He goes, I would get in your car and go where your parents are at, which at the time, mom and dad, they moved back to their house in Lancaster, and that's where I was going. I moved to Lancaster the following day, pretty much, just told mom and dad.
Well, you listened to, what
Well,
someone was telling
right.
you.
He
So
goes,
that
it's
was
getting
good.
dangerous,
Yeah.
and I felt bad because, like, a part of me was like, no, we're going to handle some business, but another side of me was like, what are you doing? And so
Yeah.
I think that was the Lord directing my steps. I'm going to say it again.
Definitely.
It had to have been the Lord directing my steps during this time. Like, no, I think Mark, you got a greater purpose. Yeah, you experienced that because you're an idiot, and I let you, and I'm leaving the 99 to go get you and redirect you back to where you're going to go. And I got a plan for you. So you just hold on.
That's right. Because everything we go through and everything we experience, it is an L, but at the same time, God always uses it for His glory. So
yeah, so I'm in Lancaster now, right? And
okay.
I'm thinking, well, I think I want to get into the medical field because if you're Filipino, you're either gonna join like the service or you're gonna be a nurse
Or a doctor.
or a doctor.
Your uncle's a doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that's like I think the expectation for every Filipino out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll become an EMT, and I went to school for that. But it didn't work out because I remember I went on a ride along. I think I told you the story.
Yeah.
We were on Highway 14, and there was like an accident. So we get to the scene, and there's a guy walking around with a piece of shrapnel kind of stuck to his head. And he was very coherent, and I couldn't talk to him because I'm doing the ride along. I'm like, no, this isn't going to be for me. This ain't going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I still had that like thug mentality, right? And that's where I kind of like met Mondo. So Mondo's like one of my best friends that I lean into for advice. We've been friends up to this day. We kind of lost connection, but he reached out a few years back after we lost connection. But this dude would give his own shirt off his back, for you. My experiences in Lancaster was around him. And so he kind of knows me. He knows me a lot. Like everything I would do or say, everything was like, man, forget that. This crip, everything I would say, it didn't make any sense because like we'll be in the arcade and I'll go inside the arcade and I'll be smoking a cigarette. And he goes, Mark, you got to put that out. Like, you can't just be smoking in here. I'm like, man, forget that. This crip. Everything was like that. Like no one's going to mess with me. And like for me and him to be friends is like, okay, this guy's like a rocker who love rock music and like death metal and like what are we even doing hanging out? But he was real, he would correct me when I'm wrong, and even though I didn't like it, it's like, man, I received the correction because he would tell me why I'm wrong. Anyway, I stayed in Lancaster for a couple of years and nothing was happening. I moved to Houston. This is about 97 now. And I stayed with my sister in Webster, Texas. And it wasn't working out here either. I'm like, well, I'm just always getting stoned, or I was, again, I'm meeting different people, remember AD?
Yeah.
Abdul, like, so I met him around that time, and we were just going out, but they were just partying. I mean, they're doing all kind of just partying. They didn't do anything crazy, but I'm like, cool. So I started partying a lot more. One day I'm rolling a blunt in my sister's house. So here I'm just rolling, and then I start smoking, and then I turn on the TV, and it was TBN 14, channel 14. They didn't have 14.1, 14.2. It was just channel 14. And I remember listening to a televangelist, and the televangelist starts preaching, and that's where he goes, and you right there, sitting right there in the couch. And I was like, okay. Me, you doing those drugs right there. And now you got my attention. Smoking that marijuana. I was like, there's no way. There's no way he's talking to me. You've been through this and you've done this, and you know what? It's time to make that change. And he starts telling me about the gospel and how I understood it, because prior to this, I was brought up Catholic, my parents, right? But I never understood the gospel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was never brought to me, or I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I actually understood who Jesus was, why he came, and that he died on the cross, resurrected. I didn't understand that. I was like, is this real? This is history? And the televangelist was saying that when that's why he died for you. All those mistakes. So the way the analogy he was using, and it always sticks with me, is you do bad, a lawyer comes and they're there to bail you out or talk to the judge on your behalf, right? And depending on how severe your crime was, whether stealing, murder, or whatever, the lawyer would talk on your behalf to talk to the judge, so that way the judge can give you a sentence. The way he was bringing it to me was like, so all the stuff you've done in your past, all the bad stuff, the things that I've done in gangs or whatnot, all the stuff I did in my life, just being a thug, really.
Yeah.
That Jesus comes in as a lawyer and he takes it to the cross and he died for me instead of me taking that punishment, because my punishment would be hell, right?
Yeah.
And that's the first time I really understood what the gospel was. Like, wow. So the televangelist says, does a prayer, and he tells me, or he says on TV, now say this prayer with me, Then I do the sinner's prayer, which I think some people have a problem with the sinner's prayer because it's not in the Bible, but, I accepted Jesus in my heart. And then he goes on to have a prayer and says, and if I ever do drugs again, you can kill me. And I was like, okay, that's pretty extreme, but I'm like, and I said the prayer. I said, and Lord, if I ever touch drugs again, you can kill me. And I meant it. So all this stuff I've done in my past, Jesus says I'm forgiven, that he takes the punishment. Like, instead of me taking the punishment, the lawyer, he would take that punishment for me. And I really understood that.
Yeah.
And that's where I just like, wow. Like blinders were taken off. I just felt like free from everything I've done. And at that point, I was like, wow. However, days later, my uncle tells me, Mark, how do you feel about staying here? And, what are you going to do? He's just really trying to encourage me to do something. I'm like, I'm just going back to Lancaster, I'm going to figure it out over there. Okay, you can figure it out and I'll get you a ticket. Days later, I'm back in Lancaster. Mm-hmm. Now, Mondo, this dude doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs, nothing. However, when I get back, and it was like a couple of days before Halloween night, he tells me all these things, man, glad to see you, and all this stuff. And we're just like hugging it out, like, yeah, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go to a race in Pomona, like in a couple of days. So the Pomona Raceway, and he had this Jetta, and it was like a black Jetta with like new speed, everything. And it was dropped and lowered, he was into that scene. And then he starts telling me, yeah, we'll have a few drinks. I'm like, what? This dude's drinking. Yeah, we'll smoke. I said, what? So Mondo, he doesn't do drugs, but I'm like, wow, why is smoking marijuana? What's he doing? Oh, whatever. So that night, I had some pants. I had to wash it. We went to his house. He says, oh, you could just use my washer, wash my clothes. He didn't have a dryer, so then he was saying, hey, why don't you just put it in front of the oven and let it dry out? And then I'm like, okay. And then it was drying. About 30 minutes later, we're into like playing video games. And then I smell something. I was like, what is that? He goes, your pants. I was like, what? And I go into the kitchen. My pants were on fire. But then I was like, no, it's not on fire. And I was looking down and I see money burning. A lot of it. And I tell him that. I said, Mondo, hey, you got money in the oven. Like, I see just bills in flames. I was like, what? And then he goes, what? And he runs up. He goes, Mom, where'd you put that money? And he goes, in the oven. And he goes, oh my gosh. And we pulled it out. And like, it was like, I think $2,500 saved up so they can move to Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were moving to Colorado to like be with his sister and his brother. It took them a few years, but they did make it to Colorado. But anyway, that was crazy. I was like, okay, well, that just happened right before Halloween, and then on Halloween day, the next day, we go to Pomona Raceway. Well, we couldn't get in the race. All this stuff was happening. One of the members of his car club says, "Oh, we got to pick up another car." And somehow it died out, and it was like one of his friend's cars, and the brother like damaged it, and it was a nice little Golf. We couldn't get to the race. That money got burnt up like 24 hours before. Now we're trying to tow his vehicle that he spent like thousands of dollars on. That it's not working, and we're towing to the house. So we're like, wow, what are we gonna do? This is a really bad Halloween night with nothing to do. So when we were at Mondo's friend's house, they were just coming with all these ideas on, well, what should we do? Well, let's just go to the Queen Mary. It's Halloween night. Go to the Queen Mary. Let's all smoke and let's have some fun. Great idea, because then I participated in that, right? So I remember like smoking with Mondo, and it was funny at first. I'm like, what's going on? And then we're in this circle, and suddenly I'm like not feeling right. I'm like, whoa. And then I felt like I was losing touch of reality. Like I felt I was dying. This is not like a stoned feeling. Like I'm about to die. And then I remember the prayer, if I ever do drugs again, you can kill me. And then I remember looking to my left, looking to my right, and I'm losing touch of reality. And I look, and one of his friends' face, he looks at me, and then it turned into like a demon, and his face stretched out and stretched back in. I was like, no, I didn't. Oh my goodness, I didn't just see that. And I looked to my left, and it happened again. And then I'm starting to pass out. I said, no, y'all can't have me. Y'all can't have. I remember saying, you can't have me. I got louder and louder, and I'm starting to look at them. I started chasing everyone, Mondo included, and they all started running to their little nice cars, freaked out. And I remember like bashing windows. I remember bashing the cars like Hulk smash.
Yeah.
Damaging these like beautiful vehicles, and they were scared. And I remember like finally flopping down to the ground, boom, and I just started like flopping like a fish. They said, you start flopping like you're convulsing, and at that time I remember my life flashing before my eyes, like a film rolling, and it showed all the stuff I've done, and I'm like, this is it, I'm dead. But I remember it got dark, and then I started seeing myself on the ground until the ambulance came, and I followed myself to the ambulance, and I saw myself in the ambulance, and then it went pitch black, boom, nothing there. And I just remember hearing voices laughing. We got you, we got you, we got you. And that's what I was hearing. And I was terrified. I mean, I was like really scared. And I remember like that prayer I did. And I thought, okay, well, Lord, I'm sorry. And I messed up again. If hell is where I'm supposed to go, then I deserve that. And I don't know like what the time frame was from the hospital from this house, but it felt like eternity of just like being tormented in hell. I hear a voice, son, I love you, and I want you to go back. And then I was like elevated, boom, from that darkness. And I felt like I was in bliss. Like I didn't want to leave this place. And I just saw these three beings circling around me. And I was thinking, I don't want to leave. I want to stay right here.
Yeah.
Like this is heaven now. I'm like, I made it. And then all of a sudden, I just hear this go back. And then I look up in the sky, and there's like this little dot, like a white bright light, and I felt like I was shot out of a cannon, and whoosh, and I'm hearing this thing go beep boop 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 boop, and I'm waking up. I'm like, welcome back.
Wow.
That's what they said.
You made it back.
And I was like, oh, don't take that off, sir. Don't just stay still. And I'm like, what happened? Well, you tell us, And I said, well, I just seen God, is what I told them. And they were like, mm-hmm. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you did see God. You have enough LSD and all this other stuff in your body to kill a horse.
Wow.
That's what they told Mondo too, because he came barging in the door later on to see me, and he was, "What the heck just happened?" I seen God. He goes, "Yeah, yeah." They said they just told me that you had like enough drugs in you to kill a horse.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "You don't even know what I just seen." He goes, "I'm pretty sure, you know." Anyway, so they had like psychiatric nurses come down to evaluate me because they're like, "Well, you just try to kill yourself, you know? Like, are you gonna be okay?" And start, because they couldn't release me until I got this.
So maybe they thought you had overdosed intentionally.
Yeah, or something, and
yeah.
they were seeing if I was gonna hurt myself. I said, "No, I mean, I just seen God and all this stuff." So they let me go, and it was about 2:00 in the morning. So Mondo and I were driving back from Pomona, or we're in Long Beach though, I think, back to Lancaster.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows, going from down below to the high desert, you have to go through these canyons. That's Highway 14. So it was about 2:00 in the morning. He's driving us back. I know he's upset with me. I remember he fell asleep on the wheel, and before we made impact, he puts his arm out and he wakes me up. "Mark, wake up!" And I wake up. I'm like, "What?" And we hit the mountain. Boom! At least 80 miles an hour, and just spun out. And where we were at, it's a one way. Okay, through the canyons, you got a one way going north, and you got one way going south. He starts going to the little yellow call boxes in California to call his mom. I was like, "Where are you going?" "I'm calling my mom. Look at my car. It's not going to start." And I was like, No, come back. It's going to start." And he goes, "No, it's not." And right there, out of nowhere, it was like kind of foggy, it looked like, you know, and you just see this old car pull up. It was like an old 1950s cop car. And we're like, "What?" Out of nowhere. "Oh, we just seen you guys. What, you guys fell asleep?" Because you hit that pretty hard, and we saw you. We're just seeing if you're okay.
Right.
And Mondo's like, "Yeah." Like, "Just calling my mom. You know, it's not gonna start." He goes, and the way they just looked at us was really strange, and I couldn't even see their face really. It was like almost kind of blank. And what they were wearing though was an old school highway patrol outfit, because they had revolvers and they had like a crazy hat. I'm like, these guys aren't anything we've ever seen. So they wished us well, and we got back in the car, and the car actually started. So we started going back. Mondo was driving, and he was like almost in shock, and he was telling me, "Mark, did you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "What were they wearing?" So, so he really knew something was weird.
Yeah.
Like, he witnessed this with me, you know. So yeah, that was when I was like 21. Actually, I remember it was around Columbine that this happened as well, because then I remember getting a call from John, and he tells me that a shooting happened at Columbine, and it was devastating. But I remember it was around that time. We start talking about music, and he's in this band, and it's a spiritual band. I'm like, he was telling me, "You should come down and be a part of it." "Yeah, you know," and I'm telling him my experience. He goes, "Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you seen God." I'm like, cool. So I felt inclined to go. So it took me almost like 6 months to get there. However, I got to Colorado.
Didn't you go to New Mexico for a little bit?
Oh, I did stay in New Mexico. That was my journey on the way to Colorado. So my sister got married the next year. Oh no, actually I went back to Houston for like a few months, and I worked at the cookie factory, the American Cookie Company.
Right.
And I stayed there, and I worked there for a little bit. But they knew the plan. They knew that I wanted to get to Colorado, you know. But John was telling me, "Well, you know, just try to save some money and come up, you know." So that's what I was doing, just saving some money, working here, working there. And then I made it to New Mexico with Michelle, my other sister. And I stayed at their apartment with her and Eric for a little bit. She had her wedding. And then a month later, after her wedding, is when I started making my way up to Colorado.
Okay.
And that's when I met up with John and the whole Benevolent Souls. That was their band. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do. Like, okay, I got some turntables. I said, okay, so I'll just scratch in the back, you know. And that's what I did. We played like the Vans Warped Tour. at the Ernie Ball stage. We did that. We did like the Herman's Hideaway off Broadway in Colorado, in Denver. So we were just getting little gigs here and little gigs there. And at the same time, I was working at Dish Network.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I worked at Dish Network for 2 years, but during that 2 years, I was like, well, I'm not really feeling the band. I mean, like, because I had a friend he was Christian. His name was Jeremy, and he was telling me, oh, we got to go check out like this one church I go to. It was called the Heritage Christian Center off Florida in Aurora.
Okay.
And it was predominantly black. It was cool.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was some serious gospel. Funny thing is that the pastor there was a white guy. Mm. He was always on Daystar.
Interesting, yeah.
I don't know if I'm not sure what happened to him, but it was Bishop Dennis Leonard. I was going to that church for a while. I learned about tithing over there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned how to tithe, and that's how I started. I started tithing, and I think like John, Prima, and the whole band were making fun of me, like, oh, you're going to go see that pastor over there? They're like, oh, you're going to give your money to... I'm like, well, that's not where my heart's at. My heart is to expand the kingdom, right? I didn't plug into the church. I didn't get discipled. I didn't really have accountability partners. I'm just reborn. I accepted Jesus in my heart. But I just didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to plug in. I'm like 21 years old now, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? You know, I didn't look into like small groups or young adults or anything like that. So yeah. I was lost. So that's how I started backsliding. And that's, I think, around the 2000s now. And I met a different group of friends, like Jesse and John, and Sean. Yeah. And I was like, they're really cool people.
Weren't some of the members of the band in like that Hare Krishna
religion? Yeah, right. So they went to the temple. I went to the temple. I was taken back because I'm like, okay, because they believe in like, oh yeah, Jesus, and they believed in Jesus. Jesus is the Son of God. I'm like, cool. So you guys agree? Okay, yeah, Jesus is the Son of God, but so are you, and you. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh. Right. So like we were all like that, and they have all these books of, I think this Vedic knowledge, just stacks and stacks of books, and I'm like, nah, that's a lot of reading. The Bible's complete. I'm reading it, and it's like from front to end, it's pretty much complete. So I didn't get very far with their belief. I just knew that they're Hare Krishna. But I
remember that you were a vegetarian when I met you. I
was a vegetarian too.
Yeah.
I kind of picked that up from them. Like, okay, it's healthier, cool. And I was thin.
You were really thin.
Yeah.
So what did your doctor say, that you became like malnourished, so you had to start eating meat again?
That's when I came over here and I got that job in Alamac, and then I went to a doctor. They said, man, you're like borderline anemic. I was like,
you need some iron.
You need some, yeah. Here's a steak and some B12. You'll be good as new.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
Some beef livers. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it tastes good. So so that's when I moved here.
Yeah.
However, so that had to have been around 2000, maybe 2001. I got away from everyone, and I started partying into the party scene, like the rave scene. Because like I said, I met Jesse, I met Crazy John, and I met Sean, and they would just go to these parties, and I thought it was cool. It wasn't gangbanging, it wasn't anything crazy, and the music wasn't bad because most of it was electronic music. So back then they called it electronica. Nowadays it's EDM. So it was all night long. Right?
But there's even different genres of electronica, right?
Right. You had the break beats, you got drum and bass, you got house, trance. Now you got even more. Now you got dubstep. I got into that, and I loved it. I liked it, and I met some friends who I shared the same interests as them. Like, we ain't hurting nobody. We're just partying, having fun. But it's like until I started rolling, right? That's where it got really bad. I started really losing ground, and just backsliding and just enjoying the world. So I started eating pills a lot. I was doing a lot of ecstasy. Every weekend, it seems like another party. The next day was never fun because you're like brain dead.
Yeah.
That brings me up to...
Were the parties still underground then, or they were in the club then?
No, well, I mean, they had some crews out there that would throw parties here and there. There's one crew that's still out there. Up to this day, that's still throwing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so And I know them. I didn't really started promoting. I just listened to the music, got into the music. I started, since I already had turntables, I was like, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and get some records. And I started playing with the records, started beat matching, scratching to a lot of my sets. I got into the Bash nightclub. I was one of the residents. I was always invited. I was always coming back like weekend after weekend until I started promoting, and then I started throwing little parties here, little parties there. And then they got bigger, and then I met another crew, and we got together, and I kind of started throwing parties with them, and that would lead up to where I met you. Yeah, because then you went to a Nelly concert. Then you went to the club to meet me, right?
I don't know. Did you go to the Nelly concert with me?
I did not.
No?
I did not go to the Nelly concert with you. You went to it with somebody, but I met you on the street. I was flyering for a club that I was starting to promote, right? Sanctuary. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, why don't you come to this party? And I gave a flyer to you. And I think that was the time that you and Lena went to that party, like whenever that time was. And I think you're right. That was Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. Halloween again.
Ironically called the Voodoo Lounge, right?
Yeah. The Voodoo Lounge. It wasn't a very big club, but I mean.
Yeah. Because you said that you were having I think it was a Halloween thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really wasn't in the club scene at that time. I was just taking my cousin out to, like, I guess, show her a little bit of Denver nightlife, because I thought, well, she's visiting from the reservation. Like, I guess she could see what it is,
Right.
Yeah. But then we met you, and then we went out another time to the Voodoo Lounge, I guess. What was next to it?
Sanctuary.
Okay.
Was the club, and Voodoo Lounge was connected.
The lounge next to it.
It was the lounge part, so it was two parts to the club.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, that's where I fell in love with you. So, I thought that was a fun, like, experience with you, going out, hanging out late at night. I don't know if I should even mention this, but so I shouldn't, because I was with somebody else at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember you talking to me, and you were like, "Oh, I really like you." That's what you're telling me. I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I really like you too," and then you go, "But you have a girlfriend." I was like, I said, "Yeah, that's probably not gonna work out no more," But I remember you went back to my house or my apartment. And we made out like all night.
Well, let's not tell everybody that.
Well, I'm just saying we made out, right?
I wouldn't say we made out.
Okay, so funny thing.
I would say I made out with you, but I feel like you were not responsive. So I was like, this is boring. Okay, now he's sleeping. I'm like, okay.
Okay,
well.
That's because I ate a whole bunch of pills, and you should have probably checked my pulse. Like, he's not responsive. His eyes are rolling to the back of his head. But I remember the next day you took off, and I remember, like, my roommate, and they looked at me like this. And I just woke up. It was probably like 3 p.m. They're just looking at me with bug eyes like this. And I go, what? And they go, you ought to check your neck. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
And you, like, gave me hickeys all over my neck. And then I was thinking, they go, what are you going to tell, my
What's
other
her
girl?
name?
Yeah, what are you going to tell? I was not going to say nothing. I'm going to avoid this situation for the next 2 weeks. Yeah. So that's where we were at. And then I broke it off with her because I really did like you. I was like, why can't I lead somebody on, like, do the right thing? And I wanted to pursue you. I liked you. You were different, Again, you're so native that one of our first dates, you bring me to a Christopher Columbus parade. And it wasn't a parade, was it?
It was a parade.
It was a parade, but you guys were protesting.
Oh, yeah, we were protesting the parade.
And I was like, what? I was like, yeah, Christopher Columbus. Because, again, I didn't understand.
Yeah, you're probably ignorant of
Ignorant.
Yeah.
I was ignorant of the whole Christopher Columbus thing that happened, because in school I was taught that he discovered America.
Right.
I didn't even know, like what Lakota was.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that
there was an
you were the Sioux.
organization that was protesting the parade, saying, well, Christopher Columbus didn't discover America.
Right.
He was a murderer and rapist.
And I never knew this. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Like,
and so at the time, I think they were trying to protest the parade, actually change Columbus Day, and I guess it worked. I mean,
well, it took a while. It wasn't just that time. How many times they probably protest?
yeah, who knows?
Like a whole bunch.
Yeah.
But anyway, pretty much that's catching you up to speed to how we met, how two worlds really collide, because you have a story. Last episode we were talking about how how you grew up, with your grandmother, and she loved you, so you didn't really notice how life was off the res and on the res.
Yeah, I
you
really enjoyed my time on
Yeah.
the reservation when I was with my grandma on the
Right.
reservation.
And so what I want to ask is, when was it when you started kind of going to like Arizona back and forth, and then going to boarding schools?
Okay.
So were you at a boarding school at 8 and 9 years old?
I think I went to St. Joseph's Indian School, which is a Catholic boarding school, maybe 2-3 hours from our reservation. I think when I was in third grade, I think.
So that
I think it might have been third or fourth grade. But I went like the end of my third grade year, and I think the beginning of my fourth grade year. I think that's the thing, is I had gone to like 2 different schools like every year up until I was like in 6th grade.
Oh, until you were 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in 6th grade, where were you at?
In Arizona.
Okay.
So I think I went to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in Arizona, and I was living with my uncle and aunt and my grandpa. Yeah, I only went to the other boarding school, the Catholic boarding school in South Dakota, for like
St. Joe's.
half of third grade and the beginning of fourth grade.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you got into high school, now you were in the boarding school in Arizona. Is that how it went?
Yeah, so then I was at a boarding school in Arizona. It's because
For 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. Because you had to have been like 15 or 16, and then that's when your grandpa was passing away.
Until my 11th grade year that he passed. So
Okay.
I think at the end of my 8th grade year, he moved back to South Dakota. He said he wanted to start a business on the reservation to employ Lakota people.
Right.
And he did. He started a business, not on the reservation, actually, in a small town close to the reservation.
Okay.
So anyways, he did do that, and I was just like, well, he's going to do that, and I don't want to like be a burden on the rest of my family. So a friend of ours told us about this school in a suburb of Phoenix. I think it's called Peoria. It was a Native American boarding school, and it was a Christian boarding school funded by World Gospel Mission. So
Cool.
yeah. So I went to a Christian school. I think at the time I was a little bit like skeptical about going to church, because even though my grandma was a Catholic and I had been to church off and on throughout my life, I was a little bit like, well, I don't want them to try to convert me,
Right.
So
but why
I'm
was
just
that?
because I was hearing what they were talking about, the Bible, this and that. And I had been to Lakota ceremonies in my life, and I was a little bit unsure about the Bible and about Jesus and
Right.
what they were saying, because I'm like, okay, so if, and this is probably really wrong thinking, but I'm just like trying to piece it together, like, okay, so if this country was founded and we were forced into this assimilation into American culture, but they're forcing this Jesus, onto our people. Our people are, getting killed, and women and children being raped, and people getting killed. Like, this has to not be God.
Right. Because, again, this whole Christopher Columbus thing comes in the name of...
Yeah.
Well, I think he came in the name of Spain or something, or Queen.
Yeah.
But I think what he represented, right? Maybe.
Yeah, but the assimilation that was forced onto us, most churches on our reservation are either Catholic or Episcopal.
Right.
And the boarding schools that our people were sent to were predominantly Catholic, and a lot of kids were physically and sexually abused in these boarding schools. So I had a little bit of like maybe a trust issue. I didn't, because I had already been to St. Joe's and I wasn't abused in any way there. I was like, well, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to get an education and it's okay. But, the way the church services were going and what they were saying, it was a bit different than what I had experienced at St. Joe's. So I was just trying to understand it and hear it for what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my dad used to make dream catchers a lot, right? So there's like all these different things around the house where he would make different types of art. And just one day, sitting around, I just made this bracelet, and it was like the 4 direction color beads, and I would just always wear it to remind myself this is what the Creator is about. Because in our ceremony, we're always praying to the Creator, talking about the Creator. And like I said, as a younger person, going to different Lakota ceremonies, I always thought it was a beautiful way of life.
So unsure about the Bible way.
Right.
Unsure, right?
Yeah, just like just saying like, well, I just got to hold to what I know is real.
Right.
What I know, who I know the Creator to be.
Right.
So, I already had this idea that these people are going to try to convert me, but I have to just stand to what I know. You know what I mean? So I would go and I would hear, and then I had a first hour Bible class. We went to church on Wednesday.
And this is high school now, right?
This is 9th grade.
Right.
Yeah.
In Phoenix at the Peoria school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you live there. It's a boarding school.
Right.
You can go home for breaks.
Right.
Your parents can check you out on the weekends.
Right.
If
So let me ask you this. Did they convert you?
Did they? I wouldn't say they converted me. I would say that probably, the Holy Spirit had ministered to me in such a way that I could understand that this is the Creator, that He sent His Son,
right?
That we can be in communication to each other directly,
right?
That you don't have to go so many different roundabout ways, that Jesus is the bridge between the Creator and myself. I think after a while of hearing the word so much, like I said, we went to church on Wednesday evening, Sunday morning, and Sunday evening, and Monday through Friday we had first hour Bible class along with all the other subjects and stuff. So, and our teachers and the staff of the school were actually missionaries, so they would have to go on furlough to raise money to be there to teach us. So they were kind of teaching us just on donations. Yeah, they had to pay their own way to be there to teach us that like we were somehow their mission field,
Wow.
And the visitors that would come and speak, other missionaries that would come and would tell us about their endeavors and what they're doing for the kingdom of God and stuff like that,
Sure.
So just hearing it so much, and like I said, it started making a connection with me. But I think... I think in my own way that I didn't do it publicly. Like I didn't receive Christ publicly.
But you accepted Jesus in your heart during that time?
But I wasn't like that, how would you call that? This boisterous, joy of the Lord.
You're talking about charismatic.
Is that what you
I
call
would
it?
think. I don't know.
Yeah, because, like some of my friends...
Because you're very stoic.
Some of my friends were just very... how would you call it, sold out for Jesus, and they're very about it and very open and bold about speaking about it, where I was a little bit like, I still have to be Lakota, and I don't know if I can be this and this, you know what I mean? I didn't know. I was just 15
the identity,
and in 9th
it's
grade.
like you have identity, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was identity crisis. I didn't have an identity. My identity was through music. That's how I expressed my identity, and it actually started. Then it started manifesting. Right? Mm-hmm. Of the stuff that I listened to. So that was my identity. But I guess with your identity, it's your, it's being Lakota, right? And
I guess it wasn't always my identity, because I'm a type of Lakota person where I'm like, I don't know, I don't have to wear a feather in my hair to be Lakota. I mean,
sure.
And first of all, we're God's children, right? Regardless. Right. And the ceremonies I would go to, a lot of the medicine people were very open to other races and people of other cultures and ways of life. coming around.
Right.
So I knew, I didn't know about their religion, but I knew like, okay, well, these Buddhists want to come over here and pray with us too.
Right.
And I guess that's okay because they're praying for peace. We're
Right.
praying for peace. So, I mean, and so different people from different cultures, different countries, different backgrounds
And they would go where?
to the Lakota ceremonies.
Okay.
So I was already like, okay, well, it's okay. You don't have to be Lakota to pray this way.
Right.
You can.
So
know-
you were actually, so during that time though, you accepted Jesus in your heart, and then you would send letters to your grandfather, right?
Oh, so yeah. So my grandpa had moved back to start a business to employ Native Americans
writing him
close to our
letters.
reservation. And I would write him a letter and I would tell him like, tell him about Jesus and tell
Yeah.
him like, Grandpa, like, we have to, or you have to understand Jesus's way. And he said, yeah, I read the Bible.
Okay.
I know that. And he was very in tune with the Bible, but also with Lakota ways. And he
Right.
said that it's okay that, some people pray this way and some people pray that way. And some people even Sundance and still read the Bible.
Right.
So he said he had a friend, and he did, who was actually a minister at Cook's Christian School, which is like in Tempe, Arizona, and it's a school for Native Americans to.
Right.
I don't know if it's a seminary, but it's a Christian school, like a college, like. And his friend, who was a reverend from that school, actually Sundanced at a Sundance too.
Right. This happened in high school, but then while you're at the boarding school, your grandfather gets sick, and you're 16 at the time.
Okay,
right?
so then my 10th grade year, I went to school in South Dakota,
Right.
in the small town that my
In Martin.
grandpa was living in. Yeah.
Right.
So then,
So during this time, do you think you're still in tune with Jesus?
no.
You kind of like just kind of canceled that out?
Yeah, because I think once the school year was over and I wasn't able to go to church and, my family didn't go to church. I mean,
Right.
my grandma went to Catholic church all the time.
Right.
I didn't always go with her, but I would, if she had asked me to or wanted me to. I think that if you're not walking with the Lord and you're not hearing the word and you're a babe in Christ, it's very hard to
So I
stay
understand.
on that.
I wasn't discipled. I didn't plug in. And I guess in the same way, you didn't plug in. So there wasn't someone to pour into you. Right?
Right.
Right. So then I suppose around that time you're sundancing.
I can't remember if I went to a Sundance that summer of my 9th grade
Right.
year.
But you were
'Cause I
sundancing
remember
all
I
the
was
way.
staying with my mom, but I didn't start sundancing till I was an adult. I mean, until I was 18.
Right. Well, that's an
But
adult,
but I had gone to sundances most of my life
Right.
in the summer because my uncle was a medicine man at a particular Sundance, and then my dad and my other uncle danced at a Sundance, and we always went.
Right.
We always camped and we always supported. And my grandma was very Catholic, but her and her good friend, which was really active in the Catholic Church also, they were like members of the Ladies Society.
Right.
Like they
They're
would
hardcore.
go to Tequita conference. They were trying to get this Tequita lady, Kateri Tequita lady, to be a saint, and they would always leave to this conference, which would always be right around our Sundance, know. But my grandma would always prepare us, like before she left, like we would always be getting our camp set up. I feel like it seemed like we were always the first campers because we would always set up our camp, and maybe that's because my grandma always had to leave to the Tequita conference around that time, and we lived close, and so we would always set up our camp and be camping. And I remember seeing all the campers come in, and we'd be there the days of the purification, the Sundance, and then I think even afterwards we always wanted to not leave because it's like such a wonderful at the time such a wonderful experience, and we just would see everybody off too, so we would still be camping, and then my grandma would be back and we would take
So you
down our
enjoyed
camp.
it, right?
Yeah,
Right?
like
I
I
mean,
have a
'cause you
lot
had
of good
families and
memories
it's like,
of
okay.
like my
Right.
dad's whole side of his family would be
Right.
there all the time. Like all
Right.
my aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, all of them, the cousins. Like we all had our own little camps, but in close proximity to each other.
So you'd Sundance 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And so it was 22. I believe I met you when you're around 22 years old. 23.
Right.
Right? Because I just turned 25, so it was 23 is when I met you. Well, this is how we met, and this is how two worlds really did collide. You speak on these stories all the time, and when I hear it, it still amazes me. Like, wow, you've been through a lot. You went through some things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got pregnant with baby girl, but you experienced something that is very common to the reservation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is before I met you.
Yeah.
Right? We're with somebody prior to me meeting you, but like I said, it was an experience, and not a good experience, where it's very too common on the reservation.
Yeah.
Do you care to share it?
Yeah, my spouse had committed suicide. It was very hard. It does happen on our reservation. We weren't living on our reservation. I guess because our population is so low that when people do commit suicide, they're saying the rates are very high on our reservation. So it's something that, the people have been dealing with a lot. And because our communities are so small and everyone kind of knows everybody, it really affects the whole community. And I think whenever my spouse had committed suicide, it affected not only me, but our family a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it's a rippling effect. It's a ripple effect of it affected me a lot in a way where it's like, you start thinking about things and...
Well, you could have, should have.
I could have helped this way. I could have did this. I could have did that. I should have did this. I should have said that. Shouldn't have said this. Shouldn't have said that. You just feel like your world's turned upside down, You try to grieve and mourn. I guess in our way, people are always saying, like, be strong, I have a lot of younger siblings. I think I have always tried to be strong in a way,
Right.
But then during that time, I think I felt like a weakness, Right. Yeah. So it was really hard.
Yeah, because I remember when I met you, you told me that. And when I met baby girl, I was young. And I remember there's a time that we spent together on Christmas. And I was building some blocks with her. We bought her these blocks, train blocks, for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I got on the floor and I was building it with her. And the way she looked at me this one time, and that's when I knew, like, okay, I'm going to raise this child